It's still early, Dave. Please silence your cell phones and do wear your masks. Thank you. The agenda for today is our normal. We'll start with the treasurer's report, our membership numbers, computer club matters, classes, community matters, a favorite app, and our feature presentation. Treasurer's report, we're still in pretty good shape. 30,000 in the bank, nothing outstanding. Total cash 30, I said 30 grand. 6260 in deferred income. Those are income from folks that renewed for 3 years at $5 a year. We have 15 grand in capital reserve fund, and that's for future purchase or purchases in the future of replacement computers. Unallocated for funds for immediate usage of 8,800. 73,352 is the value of our inventory. And thanks to you and your donations, Grafton Food Pantry was a benefit of $670 in change for last year. Congratulations to yourselves. Our membership as of the end of the year, 1,458. A little morning wake me up. Computer club matters. Our 2022 meeting schedule is going to remain the same. Coffee and donuts at 8:30. Starting the meeting as promptly as possible at 9 a.m. The lab is open on Monday and Thursdays, 9 to noon. Apple Group meets on the first Tuesday morning. The photography group is on hiatus till the spring thaw in April. And the lab will be open after this meeting this morning. Schedule coming up on future meetings. Next month is a discussion on smartphone privacy. In March, the Huntley Library folks are coming in to give us a tour of the new facilities, the actual brick and mortar part of the new library. And then in April, Huntley Police, so if you have outstanding warrants, take care of them.
Is that front row humor? Because I can't read it all the way back.
Come on over here.
Shall I interpret? All right. First pane is the Earl is his name, the older gentleman there, not Nelson the child. Earl is saying, "Stupid blankety blank blank phone." Nelson says, "Well, what's the matter?" And Earl says, "Well, I pushed the wrong button and now deleted everything. Phone numbers, photos, everything." Nelson says in the third pane, "Can I see it?" And he fiddles around with it. And there it is, all fixed. He gives it back to Earl. The last pane, Earl says, "Oh, you couldn't have fixed it in a way that doesn't make me feel like a moron."
Good.
Classes. Now, we know that a computer class may not be the best solution for everyone. Now, our lab techs are available for more than just fixing things. The lab techs are there to provide one-on-one help. So if you want to know more about Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Office or any of the web browsers, come on in and sit down with one of our techs one-on-one, and they'll help out. You don't have to wait for us to have a class. And Ralph is going to be talking about classes momentarily. You can find the answer to how do I do this at the lab. It's like a live YouTube. Computer classes are free for members. No registration required, just show up. Remember to bring your passwords in case you need to access your device. And until we get notice of changes, masks are still required. I'm going to ask Ralph to come up now and talk about classes coming up this month and in the quarter.
Thank you, David.
Well, finally something good to talk about. You know, we've been going along with hardly any classes, but we had 15 classes scheduled for the first quarter of 2022. We've already had one, so that means 14 left. Nice thing is, everybody's talking about Windows 11. Shelley's teaching a class tomorrow. Is it 11 o'clock, Shelley, or 10? 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock in the lab. So you probably don't know this, but half of our computers are Windows 10, the other half are Windows 11. So if you want to mess around and see, do you want to upgrade to 11 if you can try it out on our computers in the lab. And, you know, especially come to the lab and see Shelley's presentation tomorrow. And that'll help you decide if you want to buy a new computer with 11 or if you want to try to upgrade yours if it's adaptable. Well, you know, we're still looking for additional instructors every month. I say, you know, all the new people coming in, you got to be smarter than some of us who've been here for 15, 20 years. With new things all the time, we're always looking for someone that can give us some information, help your neighbor. You know, you don't have to be way above. You just have to know a little bit more than the people out in the audience. And you know what? You're going to learn something while you're teaching a class. So if you'd be interested, get a hold of me or let any one of the techs in the lab know your name and phone number, and I'll make sure I contact you. We'll talk about the possibility of some classes. You know, give me some ideas. I'll give you some ideas of what we'd like. And we're looking. See Ken over here, guy in the blue shirt. He's been doing the video recording of our meetings for the last 11 years. Ken.
Eight.
A long time.
8 years.
Anyway, a long time. Here's what we need. We need 1 or 2 people to step up and help him and eventually take over doing this recording. You know, Ken's the only guy I know that's got more computers in his house than Best Buy's got on their floor. Now, I'm not kidding you. He's got, I think, was it 36 you got, Ken?
I don't even know.
See? See, I wasn't lying. Oh, golly. But a good guy to know. Because, you know, if you got a question about your computer, your phone, your tablet, whatever, if you get in good with Ken, I can guarantee you're going to get it fixed. Because he's good. So, but still, we're looking for, like I say, somebody to help him. You know, he does it I helped him for a while, and then I got dumb and messed up, and he said, out. So anyway, see what you're thinking. Well, that's all I have for classes. We hope to see you there. You know, one other thing about it, when the instructors spend a couple hours getting ready for a class and only 2 or 3 people show up, you get to thinking, why am I doing this? So we're really looking for more people to come to the classes. You will learn something. There isn't anybody in this room that knows everything about every subject on a computer. I can guarantee you that. So come to classes.
Thank you, Ralph. Community Matters, the Homeowners Association, which we all belong to here. Annual meeting is on the 26th. There will be notices about needing a quorum, which means half of the residences need to be represented at the meeting. Martin Luther King Day on the 17th. And Linda Davis, the president of the Theater Club, Charter Club, says, well, we're going to be having auditions soon, but we don't know when yet because we don't know what show we're going to do because the people that own the rights to the play that we want to do won't respond to our offers. So watch the emails and e-blasts. There will be a theater production in the spring, and they will like anybody who is interested to audition. I don't know if you're familiar with this symbol. That is the new icon for the Sun City app for smartphones and tablets. You click on that, and it opens up the screen on the right. Now, for those of you in the back that can't read the whole screen, the bottom left on the circle, which I added, says membership card. You click on that, and the panel on the right shows up. And in fact, you can use this app instead of your membership card to trigger the sensors to get you into the buildings. It will read that barcode. Something, you know, it's a little maybe quicker to pull out your phone than to dig through your purse or your pockets for your iCard or your identification card. Favorite app? We've been fans of traveling and visiting national parks for a long time. Many years ago, we were there and saw a sign about the an annual, or actually it's called a senior pass. So we spent 10 bucks and got this senior pass, and I'll show that in a minute. The thing about the app, which is good on all smartphones, also on websites, it brings you information on all 400 national parks. So if you're thinking about going to a national park, you can download all kinds of information before you go. If you're just curious about national parks in general, you can browse through the app, investigate any of the 400 national parks. The app does have interactive maps, it has photos, it has all kinds of information about the available facilities at the parks. I've started to talk about this thing, the senior pass. It's now $80. Prior to 2017, it was $10. They had a slight increase. But the good news is this pass is for a carload of 4 people, and it's basically free once you have the pass. So you can go into any national park, flash your card, and take the whole family in. Now you have to be 62 or older to buy the senior pass, but it's a fantastic investment if you go to national parks. Basically, if you go to 2 parks and use the pass, you've covered the cost. So it's something to think about if you're in the mode to go out and visit national parks. And you can buy it online also. I think there's a handling charge online, otherwise you have to get it in person. And I'm going to ask Ralph to come back up and introduce Carol, who's our guest presenter for today.
Well, a very unusual subject for a computer club, but you know what? No matter whether you got an Apple, Windows, Kindle, phone, tablet, it definitely applies to everyone in this room. As a matter of fact, everyone in the world. Someday it's going to happen. So we ought to get some information out because, you know, like I say, it's going to happen to us all. We're very fortunate today to have the owner of DiFiore Funeral Home to be our speaker. And I'd like to have you join me in welcoming my good friend, my sometimes boss, Carol DiFiore.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I am Ralphie's boss, and sometimes he listens to me and sometimes he doesn't. One of the things, I'm an Apple girl, and so one of the things I usually have to tell my part-time guys is turn your phones off. So as Ralph said, I am Carol DiFiore, and I am the owner and funeral director with DiFiore Funeral Home right here in Huntley. It is an honor for me to do this job every day. Not everyone gets the chance to help people at a really difficult time. And so it is always a privilege for me to go to work every day. And so again, it is a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to kind of, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. The biggest thing I want you to take away from here is whether you type it into a Word doc or you write it on a napkin, the most important thing is that you tell your family what your wishes are. On a daily basis, I see families that really struggle with, I'm not sure what mom wanted. Dad was cremated, but mom said she wanted to be buried. What about body donation? And so there's a lot of angst in not knowing if you're doing the right thing or doing what that person wants. And so if you take anything away from today, it's just tell someone, write it down, whatever, what your wishes are. And the good thing is those wishes are, there's no end to what your passing or funeral looks like. So years ago, I grew up on the northwest side of Chicago. Everyone got the same funeral. We went to Sheldon Godwin Funeral Home, St. Ferdinand's Church, and St. Adalbert Cemetery, and then you went to the White Eagle for lunch. That's what a funeral was to me, and everyone got the same thing. And nowadays, it is the options are endless. We've had jazz bands, we've had pipe and drum, we've had a funeral with 2 people. We've learned COVID funerals where there isn't a room full of people, but it's a more private time to share and remember. And so funerals are not cookie cutter like they used to be. And I think that's an awesome thing, because I think the reason you have a funeral is to reflect on your life and who you were. And I think there's lots of ways that funerals can do that. And so we take great pride in saying yes. Can we have a butterfly release? Sure. Can we do a dove release? Yes. Can I have a jazz band? For sure. And so there's lots and lots of different options, and some people are very traditional. Some people want lots of things, some people want little things, and my job is just to put meaning to whatever it is that your funeral looks like. I have so many stories that I could tell you of. A couple comes in with their children and they say, I don't want to be here, I don't want to talk about my parents' funeral, I don't want to talk about it. But we push through, collect a little information, and one of my favorite stories is we got to picking out flowers for her mom, who's in the room with us, and the daughter says, Mom, we're going to get your casket spray. It's going to be all pink roses because I send you pink roses and I know you love them and I want you to have all pink roses. And the mom says to her, I don't like pink roses. I like red carnations. And the daughter was almost in tears, like, Mom, I have spent so much money sending you pink roses on Valentine's Day, on your birthday. Why didn't you tell me? And she said, you never asked. And so it's a simple little thing like that you just didn't know. And so what happens in pre-arrangements, and again, pre-arrangements can be, some people are very anal about it, and they come to me with their clothes, with their pictures, their obituaries written, and there's strict orders. Don't let my children change anything. Other people come in and say, well, I want my daughter to decide that. Let her pick out my outfit. And so it is just about getting that sense of what do you want, what does that look like, and how do you be organized about it. And so a lot of times, some of you here have done this. You come to the funeral home, we sit down with you, we go through basic information. Who are you? Where were you born? What are your parents' names? What's your social security number? How much education do you have? And what was your occupation? And then that's kind of the core of the file, and that's what we need for death certificate information, social security information, and then we put an obit together based on that information and then more about your family kind of things. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is technology. So I'm low tech. 3 people asked me if I had a PowerPoint. I don't do PowerPoints, but I do use the computer for just about every part of making funeral arrangements. So the first thing we do is we sit down with the family, we collect the information. As a funeral director, my job is to get a death certificate, a certified death certificate for you. So how that happens is, it's all done electronically. So we enter a secure website with the state, and we enter all of that information. Then it is electronically sent to the doctor electronically signs it, returns it to us, and then we file it with the state. Again, electronically. The only part that's not electronic are their hard copies that are on special secure paper with a seal on them. So again, that process has come a long way. We used to spend hours running around chasing doctors down to sign a death certificate. You would literally go into the doctor's office and wait and beg him to sign this death certificate for you. And now it's all done electronically. Social Security is all filed electronically. So whenever a funeral director files a death certificate, it automatically notifies Social Security that that person has passed away. It stops that number, and then it also adjusts your benefits. So if you are married and you and your spouse are collecting Social Security, one spouse dies, you will always get the higher of the two. And again, that is an automatic electronic transaction that just happens because I filed a death certificate. Years ago, writing an obituary. So one, we used to do obituaries over the phone to the paper. You'd call the paper, you'd tell them everything, spell every name, tell them where the comma goes, all of those things. Again, then we came to this great thing that I'm still amazed at, is the fax machine. Oh my gosh, you can send this piece of paper through a phone line? Like, how does that work? And so obits became easier, and again, now it is cut, paste, click, and the obit is sent to the paper. Obviously, you've seen the change. There's less obituaries in print. Most of them are online in some format. Even if they're in print, they usually go online first. The good thing about online is we don't have a charge to put it online, but the papers, an obituary can range from about $300 to $1,000 for one day. And so there are lots of digital fingerprints that touch a person when they pass away. Videos, I know they're not videos anymore because I put it on a jump drive and there's no VHS like I'm used to, or DVD. So I'm feeling old with all of this technology that just keeps moving along faster than sometimes I can keep up with. Again, videos, DVDs, jump drives have allowed us to make things so much more personal. I have a funeral coming up, and the woman loved haunted houses, and she loved taking her kids, grandkids to haunted houses. And most of the video is of every Halloween, her as a witch. And the kids just sat there and watched that. And that memory of seeing grandma as the witch was so healing for them and so inspiring and a good memory for them to take away. And so again, funerals are way more about who you are and what your life is and was. And again, I'm here to tell you that it's important to think about that. And don't get in any hurry. You put it down on paper, we stick it in a drawer, and we don't use it for 100 years. So, but it's peace of mind that you can check it off the list. My family knows what to do. A lot of times it's, well, I'll just call Carol. She'll know what to do. And at church or on a funeral, people will come up to me and say, Carol, I want that at my funeral. Will you write that down? Will you put that in my file? And so again, funerals can be lots of different things. Everyone, whenever I am in a room like this, people want to know the basics. How much does a funeral cost? How much does cremation cost? So I'll kind of give you some general numbers on that. So if you wanted to have a traditional funeral, which is your body is present, you purchase a casket, you're buried at a cemetery. That's what we call a traditional funeral. That's going to be about $10,000 to $12,000. Again, it depends on some things. If you pick a casket that's $10,000, your funeral's going to be that much more. But $10,000 with an average casket, going to the cemetery, paying church, is going to be right in that $10,000 to $12,000 mark. If you say, I want to be cremated, but I want to rent a casket, I want my body present, I want the cremation to happen after church, that's gonna be around 8,500. And so we call that a traditional cremation. If you say, I don't want my body present, I want an urn present, and I want the urn to go to church, you're gonna be right around that $5,500 mark. And that's called a cremation memorial service. And then the option of, I want a direct cremation, I don't want anything. You're gonna be right around $3,000. Again, there's not a right or wrong choice to that. I see people really struggle with, I'm not sure, I don't know. And again, I always say it comes back to what feels right to you. What feels like the best choice. I did see a husband and wife came in, they were young, they were 60, and they said, Carol, we want to take care of everything, we don't want the kids to worry about it. We want a direct cremation, no service, because it'll be easy for them. Then they don't have to deal with all of this. And I said, okay, we wrote up the papers, they wrote a check for it, we put it into an insurance policy. And she called me the next day and said, oh my God, we have to come back. And I said, why, what's wrong? Well, we talked to our kids about that. And that's not what they want. They want to go to the cemetery where grandma is, and they want to go to church where we go to church every Sunday, and they want videos and pictures. And again, it was, their perception was, if we do nothing, it's easy. And the kids' perception was, hey, we want to remember you and celebrate you. And so again, neither were right or wrong, but it was about just having that conversation and knowing what is helpful for the people who are grieving you. Technology, I have to talk about this because passwords are a challenge for people when you die. Leave your passwords where someone can find them. Not too easily, but tell someone, put it in a drawer, put it somewhere. Apple phones are very, very hard to get any information out of when someone passes away if you don't have the password. They will take a death certificate, but again, it is not an easy process for your family to get to your phone. And I would assume that's the same thing with bank accounts and online banking. Like how you record your passwords, where you record your passwords is an incredible big piece of things today. Again, we weren't thinking about this years ago. I am the worst. I am like, I hate when I have to change my password. I would like my password for every single thing that I do to be the same, and no one lets me do that anymore. I say I have the first email address. I had a Juno account, and I hated to give it up. And my IT guy said, Carol, you have to give that up. It's not safe. And I'm like, please, just let me keep it. And I did have to give up my Juno account, so. I'm gonna open it up to questions, but some people gave me some questions already. Oh, one of the things someone came up to me and said is, can the computer club please do a class for widows and widowers? Because usually one person who dies is the computer person and doesn't know what to do. And so I think that's an awesome idea, to share that technology with people who are very unexposed to it because, well, my husband did that, or my wife handled all that online banking. I don't know what to do. And again, like years ago, it was a wife would say to me, I don't know how to write a check. And so again, it's that same concept of sharing that knowledge so that the person left behind isn't kind of stranded. And so I think the computer club would be a great resource for that. I don't have my glasses because I'm old. Is cremation needed to donate one's body? Anatomical Gift Association. So Couple different things. So body donation is where you fully donate your body to science. When you donate your body to science, ultimately your body will be cremated and your ashes would be returned to your family if you want them to be. And when you donate your body to science, you have to do that ahead of time. So you have to deed your body to science. There's several programs. One is Anatomical Gift Association of Illinois. The schools, University of Chicago, University of Iowa, all have programs that involve body donation. But again, that's definitely something you want to plan ahead for, because you can't, at the last minute say, oh, my mom wanted to donate her body to science. They will not accept you. It's almost impossible to get into a program unless you're signed up ahead of time. The other thing about body donation is they can reject you, even if you're signed up. So let's say you're 6'5" and 250 pounds. They might, just based on your height and weight, say, we don't need that kind of specimen right this minute, so we're going to decline you. Sometimes if you have cancer, sometimes if you're over a certain weight, there's lots of little reasons why they can reject you, and there's not always a rhyme or reason to it. It's just kind of where they're at in their program at the time. Yes? Hey, Ralph, she has a question.
Jesse White has it on your license that you can donate.
Microphone coming.
Where is she?
Right here.
Oh, okay. Everybody can hear.
Jesse White has a thing where you can put it on your license that you're donating your body to science or whatever. How does that work?
So thank you, because that was the next thing I was going to talk about is, so there's body donation, which we just talked about. The next thing is organ donation, which is on your driver's license. So organ donation means anything from your eyes to your heart to your lungs to your kidneys could be donated. Again, most of the time when you sign that on the back of your card, unless you die in the exact right circumstances, your organs are not viable.
Okay.
And so, again, lots of people have that confusion. Oh, I signed it on the back of my driver's license. And so that is really organ tissue donation. And if you donate your organs or tissue, that does not keep you from having any type of funeral that you want. It might delay it until we get the body a day or so, but other than that, it does not keep you from having any type of funeral. And when you donate your body to science, everyone thinks that it is free. So it's free in the sense that the Anatomical Gift Association or the college that you've donated your body to pays for their expenses in terms of using your body, cremating it, returning those ashes to the family. You still need a funeral director to file your death certificate, to get a burial transit permit, to transport the body to wherever it needs to go. And so there are some expenses attached to that. And again, that concept of it being free is not 100% true. Let's see. So green burials or natural burials are things we hear lots of things about lately. So a green burial means that body is not embalmed. It goes into a wicker casket that goes right into the ground. So in order for a green burial to happen, you have to have a cemetery that's going to accept that body without an outer burial container or a vault as we know it. So most cemeteries do require an outer burial container. So even if you had a wicker casket, that wicker casket would have to go into a concrete box or a vault. Here in McHenry County, The only cemetery that accepts green burials is Windridge Cemetery in Cary. Yes?
How many deaths occur at a hospital versus home? And if you are in a hospital and you have that signature on the back of your driver's license to donate organs, will the hospital take care of that, or how does that transpire?
Right, so if you die in a hospital, so chances are if you die at home, your organs, your tissue is not going to be donated, even though you signed the back of your card. Again, it's a timing thing. If you die at a hospital, when that person expires, regardless of what you've signed on your driver's license, someone from the hospital will ask you those questions. Do you want to donate any of his organs? Do you want to donate any of the tissue? If the answer is yes, then they will call like the iBank, or they will call the donor network, and they will come take the body to their facility, and they will take the tissue, they will take whatever is viable, and then they will call us, and we make arrangements to either pick that person up or have that person dropped off at the funeral home. And again, that shouldn't cost you anything if you donate your organs, in terms of, you know, it's extra transportation, or, you know, there's a time delay. That shouldn't cost you any money, but you don't get any money for donating your organs. Does that answer those questions about body donation and organ donation for you?
A question, cremation society, where you can actually have your cremation set up for, how does that relate then to you and your services at your funeral home?
Sure. So we have our own crematory on site. And so what that allows us to do is set our own schedule to make sure that you're not going anywhere but our funeral home. So if you have a cremation society, they are more about volume and we are more about service. So if you have prearranged a direct cremation with Cremation Society of Illinois, Neptune Society, they're going to do things on their time frame. So if you die at home, they may not be able to get here for 6 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours. We're going to be there within 60 minutes. If you say, hey, we want to be cremated and then I want to have a service on Friday, they may or may not be able to set that schedule, because they cremate you based on 1, 2, 3 number, whereas we would cremate you based on when your service is. And so, again, it's not a right or wrong choice. We are probably more expensive than they are for a direct cremation, but again, we are keeping you right in-house, and you know, we obviously have brick and mortar that's why it is more expensive, and you're paying for service. And we also have the ability, sometimes people want to witness the cremation, and so you certainly could witness a cremation, you know, for your family member at our facility, which would be a challenge at a cremation society.
Say there's a veteran and he wants the service that's usually typical for a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
Who arranges for that? And
right.
How do you go about it?
So the funeral director arranges for it, and what we need to arrange for it is your DD-214 or your discharge papers. You have to be honorable. Doesn't matter if you served 1 month or 10 years. You're entitled to presentation of the flag, playing of taps, and presenting the flag to your family. You're also entitled to a headstone. So that could be a bronze flat marker. It could be a granite upright. Again, depending on what cemeteries would allow. But those are all benefits that veterans are entitled to. They're also entitled to go to a national cemetery for free in terms of your vault is paid for, your opening and closing, your headstone, all of that. Any national cemetery that you go to, we would again arrange that all for you. Also for cremation as well. So if you decide you and your wife want to be cremated or buried and be at a national cemetery, whoever dies first in relationship to the veteran, you would have a spot reserved, 2 spots reserved upon that first death. Not anything you can do ahead of time. They will not allow you to arrange or prearrange a burial. It has to be at need. Veterans benefits are always an interesting subject. Everyone thinks veterans get burials for free. So there are very little veterans benefits unless, 1, you die in a VA facility, 2, you're literally getting a pension from the VA. Then you would be entitled to burial benefits.
Hello, over here. Frank, get Susie. Hey, Frank. Susie, I'm going back.
Susie knows me, so she gives me hard questions probably.
Well, Carol, here's what I'd like to know. If I use your services, are you gonna take care of everything that has to be done at my church, like the organist, the soloist, all of that sort of thing? And then are you gonna help me if I wanna have a luncheon at, say, a restaurant that's not here or?
Yes, so Susie, once you need my services, and again, not for 100 years, I will help you with everything. So we will help you order flowers, we will contact the minister, we'll set the schedule, we'll do obituaries, we will set up luncheons. If you want a 10-piece orchestra, we will help you with all of that. I always say, you're stuck with me. Once you engage our services, I'm like a bad penny. I don't leave you. And beyond that, we offer lots of aftercare. So hopefully in February, we'll be doing what we call Mending Hearts, which is a luncheon for people who have lost a spouse. We do a Christmas memorial service every year. And pre-COVID, we used to do something coping with the holidays or grief once a quarter. And so as soon as COVID gets better, you'll start seeing all of that again. But again, our job is to help you with everything from soup to nuts, from beginning to end. We will walk you through everything.
Carol, I would like to ask what kind of licenses that you are required, and what do all mortuaries have the same types of certifications?
So yes, it varies by state. So in Illinois, I have to be a licensed funeral director and embalmer. It's one license. So what that allows, my license allows me to make a removal, which is when you die, whether it's at home, whether it's at the hospital, whether it's in a nursing home, wherever you die, a licensed funeral director has to go to the hospital, present their license, and then take possession is really of the body. Also to do an embalming. So to embalm a body, you have to be a licensed funeral director. And then to conduct a funeral. So if a funeral is going to church with a body, then you have to have a licensed funeral director there to run that funeral. The other thing, the most probably important thing the funeral director does is sign your death certificate. So not only does the doctor sign that death certificate, but the funeral director and my license number has to be on that death certificate as well.
I'm getting back to a green burial. What is the cost of a green burial?
So again, it is gonna still be probably about $7,500 because you're not buying a casket and you're buying a wicker casket, which is about $1,200. And again, the cost would probably be more on the cemetery end than on our end in terms of what that looks like. Someone had a question about pine boxes, and so lots of people say that, hey, I just want to be in a pine box. Well, sometimes a pine box ends up to be a wood casket because he was a woodworker and he loved working with oak. But we can get you a pine box. Again, some are nicer than others, and again, it's what you're looking for in terms of pine box. Sometimes that means a wood casket, sometimes that means just a simple pine box, sometimes that means a monk's casket. There's an abbey in Dubuque that makes New Mallory Abbey. They make hand make wood caskets from walnut to pine. And again, cost wise, it is like people think, okay, if I go to the Abbey, the casket's going to be cheaper. That's usually not the case. You're paying for the craftsmanship and you know that it is literally handmade, and so there is a cost to that. So.
Do you work in conjunction with other funeral homes? Like, for instance, if the family is out of the area and you want to wait in the community that the family is in, do you then, and say, you know, you want to come back here to be buried, do you work in conjunction with other funeral homes?
Sure. So I can rent out any funeral home. So let's say you want to go back to the city and be laid out at Belmont Funeral Home. So I would do everything, and then I would physically bring your casket, your flowers, everything to Belmont Funeral Home and run the funeral out of there. Same thing. You have a relationship with Belmont Funeral Home, you've used them your whole life, but you want your funeral to be here because all your friends are here. So they could rent my funeral home in that same vein.
Question, if you make arrangements with you, but pass in Arizona or Florida or something, how does that work?
Sure. So if you make arrangements with me and it's no money exchanged, so then those arrangements, your family could call and say, hey, my dad came in, he has all his arrangements written down. Can you get that to us? So we'll fax it, email it to the funeral home, whatever. If you say, hey, I want to pre-fund my funeral, so that means when you pre-fund your funeral that you're taking, we itemize everything out of your services. So let's say that number is $10,000. That goes into an insurance policy that is irrevocable, which means it can only be used for your funeral services. But if you go to Arizona and you have that policy goes with you wherever you need the services at the time of your death. So it would go as a lump sum. So the funeral home in Arizona would get that money for your funeral arrangements, or vice versa. Let's say you lived in Florida, you made pre-arrangements there, you have a prepaid policy, you die here, you want everything here, that funeral home then transfers that money to us. So one of the values of doing a prepaid funeral is if you are ever going to run out of money, so if you're going to go on Section 8 or Title 19 or some form of public assistance, you can't have more than $2,500 in assets. But they do allow you to take money and put it into a policy, again, that's irrevocable, that can only be used for your funeral services. So if you go in a nursing home or there's a chance that you're going to run out of money, it is in your best interest to take what you have at the time and put it into a pre-funded policy.
Carol, hello, Carol.
Carol, this way.
Oh, sorry.
If one spouse wants to be cremated and the other one's a normal burial, is it a requirement by the cemetery or by the state that the buried person has to be buried first in the grave before they put the cremated remains in?
No, so right, and oftentimes that is the case. Someone wants to be buried and someone wants to be cremated. So how that works is there's two options, and again, it does kind of depend on the cemetery. But normally at a cemetery, you can have one traditional burial and one urn in one grave. Doesn't matter who goes first. The other option is sometimes people, if the person who is buried, sometimes people will wait and want to put that cremated urn in the casket. You know, like if the person dies first and he was cremated and she wants to be buried, she might keep that urn until the casket is buried.
Okay, my question is, if you're signed up with the Anatomical Gift Association and they decide that they can't use you, what's plan B?
Plan B is I'll help you with Plan B, and usually what that is a direct cremation with no service.
Okay, thank you.
But it could be anything.
Right, so you could still arrange for like a memorial service
For
or
sure.
something.
For sure, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Carol, if I died in Huntley and I want to be buried in Kentucky, how are you going to get my body from here to Kentucky?
I know you're not going to Kentucky, Susie, but okay. If you die here and want to go to Iowa, to Wisconsin, you know, chances are we'll drive you there and we'll conduct the funeral there for you. If you die in Kentucky or you want to go to Kentucky or to Florida, then I'm going to ship you to another funeral home via airplane. Cargo, but it's a first class price.
It's first class on cargo.
Good questions.
Yeah, I understand that Casco sells caskets. Is that true? Have you ever had any experience with Casco?
So yes, they do sell caskets. What that is a lower price casket. And when someone says to me, I want to get my casket from Costco, I have caskets that are almost identical, that are almost exactly the same price. So I'm going to try to talk you out of that just because I can't have any control over that casket then. So like if you say, hey, I want my casket from Costco, I can't tell you that your service can be on Wednesday until I know that I'm going to get that casket. The other thing is if that handle falls off that casket, I can't be responsible for it. So by me taking ownership of a casket, then I know it's solid, it's good, it'll be here on time. And so again, I could make it, there's caskets out there that are identical to that. The other thing is that most of the products that come from Costco are Chinese, made in China. We buy only things built and made in America.
Can you bury one ashes in a plot and then the second ashes in the same plot and just have one?
Normally, yes, again, it just depends on the cemetery. So like for instance, Huntley Cemetery, you can bury up to 4 cremated remains in one lot, but another cemetery might not allow that. So the answer is usually yes, but it does depend on the cemetery, especially like the Catholic cemeteries in the city, they have stricter requirements.
Okay, like for instance, his family is buried in Barrington. There's a plot right next to his parents. If we buy that plot, can we be buried in that plot?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a pre-funded funeral insurance policy and the proceeds or the amount exceeds the amount that you end up really spending, what happens to the difference?
So in an ideal world, it goes back to the family. If that person is on public assistance in any way, it goes back to the state. And again, when it goes back to the state, it's complicated. So like, if, let's say there's $500 left, it's probably way easier for me to include your luncheon maybe in there, opposed to trying to give that money back to the state.
That's a good point. So funeral costs couldn't, that insurance proceeds could also go just to a luncheon, which you might not think would be included.
For sure, right.
Carol, earlier you mentioned that you're not really computer literate. How do you do all of that? And let's say the audiovisual that oftentimes is presented in your home.
So I do all of the videos. I do use technology a lot, so I'm probably a little more savvy than I think I am, but sometimes it changes so quickly, it seems challenging to keep up with it. And again, things like passwords literally make me pull my hair out. So
Ralph can come in handy.
yes, Ralph comes in handy. My nieces and nephews come in handy. There's always people smarter than me, which I love and appreciate. But it is learning. You know, it's just about kind of embracing that technology. Like I said, I still wonder how the fax works. Like that just seems like an amazing thing to me. And now we barely use the fax. And so, so yeah, I do try to keep up. We have really good equipment. You know, we have great computers, we have great digital technology, and I have a great IT guy that bails me out of a lot of things.
Does the state inspect your property?
They very rarely do. So we're regulated by the state as well as the health department, and then someone regulates our crematory as well.
I have a question. So let's say a 60-year-old wants to pre-plan their own funeral, goes ahead and pays the fee, $10,000, buys the non-refundable insurance policy. And the intent is that there would be no additional cost at the time of their passing.
Right.
Let's say that 60-year-old passes at 90. You can assume prices will go up.
Right.
So is the expectation that that 60-year-old check in to see if prices have increased along the way? Or are they covered so that there indeed are no additional expenses
So
when they're 90?
yeah, that's a great question. So how it works is when you come to me and say, hey, I want to prepay this, here's $10,000. What I'm saying to you is I guarantee my services, my merchandise, everything that I have control over, I give them to you at that cost no matter what, 90, 100, whatever. The things I can't guarantee are things that are out of my control. So let's say we put in $500 for your grave opening. And then when you're 90, it's $1,200. So your family would pay the difference of that. So it's just things that I can't control. Death certificates, obituaries. You know, again, maybe we put in $500 for your luncheon and it's $1,000. So, but overall, yes, you're gonna pay very, very little.
It's been some time since I had to deal with some of these issues. But in the past, it was get as many death certificates as you possibly could need at once because of sometimes the difficulty of getting more. And how has that changed? Are electronic certificates acceptable? Do you advise people on how they should handle these things for all the needs that certificates are required?
Sure. So just a quick note, if you're leaving, if you would like to take up here at this front table, there's this book called Planning Ahead. And it's just a great resource to have. And you can either keep it at your house or keep it at the funeral home and we'll have a file for you. But again, it's just great to have that conversation with your family. So those are there available for you. The question about death certificates, sorry, my brain. So death certificates you need for anything titled in your name. So insurance, pensions, 401ks. 10 is a good number. They're true. Again, each county has a different cost for death certificate, but overall it's $20 for the first one and then $10 for each additional one. If you need more, we can always get you more. We could probably have them within a day. It is changing in terms of if you scan a death certificate in, your insurance company might take it. They might not. Banks want an original. Usually insurance companies want an original. So you get death certificates based on how many different entities you have. You know, if you have 5 banks, for sure you need 5 death certificates. If you have 1 bank, that lessens that number. But the big things that you need death certificates for are insurance, pensions, 401ks, you know, to change a car title. Again, you're gonna go to the county and change that title. They're not gonna keep that death certificate, they just need to see it. So 10 is, most people get 10, give or take.
If you want to be buried out of a veteran cemetery, can it be out of state?
Yes.
And how do you?
So depending on where it is, we would make those arrangements to get you to that location. Again, if it's close, Iowa, Illinois, you know, Quad Cities, we'll take you there ourselves. If it's Florida, Ohio, you know, we're gonna transport you via airplane to another funeral home.
Thank you.
Sure.
Carol, are there trends today on type of funeral? Or is the traditional still very popular, or is there more cremations, or what?
Sure, so right now we are at 80% cremation. Of that 80%, and this is just me personally, but Illinois is about 75% cremation overall. So of that 80%, our cremations are mostly traditional with a casket, a rental casket, a viewing, a service, and the cremation takes place afterwards. So I think cremation is definitely trending, but I think people sometimes crave that traditional, those customs. Like sometimes there's comfort in that.
Okay. That's pretty wild. Well, we have quite a few questions, and Carol, you did an exceptionally good job answering. I'm considering possibly asking her to assist me with a class one of these days, maybe in the spring or the summer. It'd be a lot easier that way, I think, to ask some personal questions. I'm sure there are some people out there that say, well, I want to ask this question, but I don't want everybody else to hear what I want to know. But in a class where there's 15 or 20, it might be better, because actually we're actually recording this, as you well know. We don't record our classes. So Carol, we thank you very much for taking the time to enjoy it.
And so just know I as a funeral home, I want to be a resource to this community. And so, right, like we get questions all the time. Anyone on my staff can answer questions. Sometimes you can't find an obituary of someone at another funeral home. So we are here to help you, to assist you, because this isn't something that you do every day. And so of course there's lots of questions. And again, we are here to help you, and thank you so much for having me today. Happy New Year, and it's so nice to see